Hobby. Rushali madam, sir is joining within 5 minutes.
Okay, madam.
I'm already there.
Yeah, sir. Actually, I thought you were talking on phone now, so you may be joining later.
No, ma'am. First of all, I have joined this meeting and then I called you.
Okay, sir. Okay. Ma'am, can we start?
Yes, madam.
Shweta madam, are you ready?
Yes, madam.
Sir, Kuldeep sir, with your permission, can we start?
Sure, ma'am. Absolutely.
Yes. Shweta ma'am, please continue.
Okay. Good afternoon, one and all. Before to start, I request Rushali madam for national anthem. Madam.
Yes. I request everyone to please stand for national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तव शुभ नामे जागे, तव शुभ आशीष मांगे, गाहे तव जय गाथा, जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। जय हे, जय हे, जय हे, जय 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 हे।
Thank you, madam. It is a great pleasure for me to introduce our resource person, Dr. Kuldeep Sharma. Sir, who is going to talk about objectives and hypotheses in a brief with us. Myself, Shweta Mohite. Today is the 4th day of national level 10 days training and capacity building program on research methodology. Sir, having a 19 years of teaching experience, currently he is working in KBP Hinduja College of Commerce as an assistant professor in accountancy department, which is in Charni Road. He is MCom, MPhil, PhD and NET qualified. Sir has published 40 research papers internationally, and among them 5 got a best paper award. 21 nationally present published paper, and from that 6 got best paper award. He has published 5 books. Sir is recognized PhD and MPhil guide of Mumbai University, and in MPhil he has guided 16 students and in PhD 10 students. Sir is a chairperson of Board Studies of Trade, Transport and Industry in University of Mumbai. He is a member of Studies of Banking and Finance in University of Mumbai, and he is an ex-executive member in Indian Commerce Association. Sir also worked as a member of grievance cell for low attendance in University of Mumbai. Again, a paper setter for the subject portfolio management and security analysis and portfolio management at university examination. Sir is a lifetime member of All India Commerce Association and Maharashtra State Commerce Association. Sir also worked as a Population and Transport Committee All India Commerce Association, which is Sir also awarded for the best researcher for the academic year 2012-13 and 17. Same also awarded for the final round in the teacher category at the 8th Maharashtra State University Research Convention Avishkar held at North Maharashtra University. Congratulations, sir. And sir also worked as a Transport Committee convener in the Maharashtra State Commerce Association Conference. Also worked as a member of organizing committee for 102nd Indian Science Congress. To welcome you, sir, and start the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your brief introduction. And I'm happy to see Poonam ma'am as tomorrow's speaker. She is a very good speaker and a very knowledgeable faculty. Now, coming to today's topic, today we will going to focus on two important aspects of research. One, which is formulation of objectives, and we will also going to see how we can formulate our hypothesis. This is the first part, and in the second part we will going to discuss about questionnaires. What are the important techniques, how we can develop a good questionnaire which can produce a excellent responses for us, so that we can to all of you. This is Dr. Kuldeep Sharma, and as you have already attend a 3-day workshop, today is the 4th day, and before taking a lecture, I just spoke to ma'am just to know that what are the important topic which is covered in your workshop. So she has already told me that the review of literature is already covered. Why I'm asking this thing? Because a review of literature is one of the important thing from where the entire research starts. There are two methods of research, as you know, inductive and deductive method. Okay, and here when you talk about deductive method, theory is very, very important. Similarly, your objective always come from your review of literature. So today we will going to see particularly what is a review of what is a research objective, why there is a need of it, and how the research objectives are very important. Let me share my PPT with all of you. I hope you can able to see my screen, isn't it? Okay, so let's see. My first question is, what is a research objective? When ma'am spoke about a review of literature, why we go for review of literature? Just to identify a research gap. Just have an example. Mr. A want to do a study on behavior of a participant of online workshop. And there are 10 studies which was already conducted, and they all have come to a conclusion that those who are attending this workshop online, they are not at all attentive. Okay, so this was their conclusion. Now I want to see, they might have taken their attentive level, but what about their participation? What about the various mode of online platform? Might be whatever the platform which they are using, I mean to say softwares what they are using may not be friendly user. It may create a lots of problem, it may create lots of disturbance, and that is why the participant is less attentive in the workshop. So this is one of the area of research where I can able to conduct. So this is one of the gap. Second is availability of internet. Now look at here, when I talk about availability, see, there might be some area, or there might be from the speaker point of view, the net is not up to the mark, the bandwidth of a net is not up to the mark. So whatever he speaks, the voice keeps on cracking in between. So whatever he says ultimately will not reach to the receiver. So this is another area of research. So from the review of literature, I can able to identify what are the area or what are the research gap which I should attend, or what that should be, I should say addressed by a researcher. And from this research gap, I have to set what objectives, and that objectives will take my research to a particular level. Okay, my objective might be knowing what are the different platforms of online teaching learning method I've used by the workshop organizer. Number 2, what quality of a internet or what quality of a software, okay, or what kind of a bandwidth uses by the speaker or by the participant, so that there should not be any disturbance in between their lectures. So these are some of the area on which I can conduct a research. Definitely, this will only be achieved by setting an objective for my study. Remember one thing, objective, when you set an objective for a research, it will give a parameter, it gives a direction to your entire study. So instead of studying a XYZ thing, we are only focusing on 2, 3, 4 points. Later on, first of all, let's see what is a research objective all about. So research objective, if I talk, it is broadly described what your research project intend to accomplish, what exactly you want to do in your research. So if I'm saying I want to do a research on a behavior, or I should say attentiveness of my online workshop participant. So this is a broad area, but exactly what I want to do in that particular research. So my objective will give me a parameter, it will give me a direction, what exactly I intend to accomplish or want to achieve from my study. They should guide every step of the research process. Research process is a lengthy thing which start from setting of your objective till the drawing a inferences from your conclusion, from your data, what you have found from the data. And therefore, I can say developing a research objective or setting a research objective is one of the important step, and what quality of research objective you are setting will give a direction to your research. So research objective may involve slightly as you or your research progress is concerned, but they should always line up with the research carried out and the actual content of your paper or your study or your PhD. Remember one thing, there is a close relationship between your research gap and the objective and hypothesis. Therefore, when you set a objective, simultaneously in your mind, you always be framing your hypothesis. So set an objective in such a way that this will try to find out the relationship, the trend, the behavior of a variable, not a particular thing, but it is a collecting the information about a variables. So next thing is why, or what are the objectives of a research, why we have to go for research. Let me check if there is any. Yes, what is the research objectives, research aim. Okay, now as I said, research aim are completely different from research objectives. Why I'm saying it is completely different from research objectives? Because research aim is a one particular thing. If you are conducting a research, your research aim might be a one. Okay, but as research objective are concerned, it is there might be 2, 3, 4 research objective. So when we talk about research objective, typically refers to a broad statement indicating the general purpose of your research project or research work which you want to do. It should appear at the end of your problem statement before you set a research objective. Whenever you write your statement of problem or you identify research gap, at the end always you write down last line is always be your research aim. These are a particular gap in the earlier study, therefore I want to conduct a research, and this research will going to provide or will going to promote or will going to give a clear-cut picture about so and so thing. So that is your research aim, which always come before your research objective. Just to fulfill this gap, just to achieve this research aim, you set a research objective. So your research objectives are more specific than your research aim. Research aim might be, I'm conducting this research to know the broad view or broad aspect of particular variables. But when I talk about research objective, I have to be very clear cut. I have to be, be specific, point to point, what exactly I want to study, to determine, to evaluate, to identify what exactly I want to do. Therefore, you may have 4-5 research objective, but when it comes to research aim, you always have a one research aim of your research topic or research project, which you are taken into consideration. Why our research objectives are important? This is one of the important question which we have to ask to ourselves. I'm putting this question in front of you. Why there is a need of research objective? In the beginning of the lecture, we have spoke about it will give you a clear-cut direction. It is something, which gives or it provides a parameter for a researcher, what exactly they want to do or what exactly they want to achieve in their study. So when I talk about what are the importance of research objective, first one I have said, establish the scope and depth of your project. This particular point help you all people to avoid unnecessary extra things which you research. So when you research some extra things which is not required in research, you waste your time. So those important time you can save. It also means that your research methods and conclusion can easily be evaluated. You can easily able to, review. You can easily able to evaluate your conclusion and what are the research methods you have used. So when you establish the scope and the depth of your research product, ultimately you require a one thing which is known as research objective. Second point says, contribute to your research design. Research design is just like a heart of a body. Research design will going to tell you exactly how you will going to conduct your research. It is a blueprint of your entire research project. So therefore, research project also help to design your research. So when you know that your objectives are this particular thing, so you already get a clear idea what exactly or what method are most appropriate for your research. And accordingly, you conduct a research. For an example, if I have to deal with participants, so what are the important, features of a participant which I want to record? So whether I want to record through a Google Doc or I want to meet them personally, or exactly how I want to collect the data, that will give me a picture in my research objective. Number one thing. Number two, what exactly I want to cover. I want to study their height. I want to study their, your weight, or I want to study their intellectual level. I want to study their attentiveness. What exactly I want to do, that I have to write in my objective. To study or to identify or to collect the average height of the classroom, or to evaluate the attentiveness of the participant. So you have to be very clear, and your research design will accordingly designed to collect the data. Number three, indicate how your project will contribute to the extent research. This particular thing will allow you to display your knowledge of up-to-date research, employ or built on the current research method, and attempt to contribute the research debates. So this particular research objective sometimes also, provide a food for thought. Research objective also open up some separate platform for discussion on which another researcher can carry forward the research. That is why at the end of a research project, we always write scope for further study. and that scope is always be created, always be find out from your research objectives. Therefore, research objectives are very, very important if we talk about research project or want to conduct a good research. So that particular objective will guide your entire research. Remember one thing in research, one thing very important, that is time limit. So when you set your objective, the chances of completing a project on time are more. So what are the natures of research? Natures of research objectives. I mean to say characteristics of a research objectives. How your research objective should be. It should be a clear statement. Always try to make a complex or difficult statement. Try to avoid conjunction between a two statement. Suppose if I want to write down like this way, to find out a relationship between A and B and their participation in the workshop. Two clear statement. Number one, to find out a relationship between A and B, and second thing, to study or to evaluate the attentiveness of the participants. So always try to avoid a complex statement. Always try to write down a clear statement and write down those statements into bullet point. Okay, don't write a paragraph for research objectives. Always write down a bullet point. And you know, when we talk about research objective, mostly the research objectives studying the relationship, the differences, the perception of participant of the online workshop. To know the relationship between the participants of the workshop. Okay, to know the differences in their attentiveness amongst the participant of the workshop. You can also evaluate performance, trend, growth. What are the reasons? Okay, we always try to, if you have seen, I hope all researcher belongs to a social science. There are someone who belongs to pure science. I don't think so. Okay, so in social science, we always try to study the reason behind the downfall of share markets, or what are the reasons, to study the reasons or to identify the reasons for slow economic recession, slow economic growth. Similarly, factor influencing buying behavior, factor influencing attentiveness. What are the factors affecting the participation of the people in the workshop? Okay, the factor affecting the sales of a particular thing. So factors is always be studied. So when you set a research objective, your research objective should be studying either a relationship, either a differences. Acha, relationship of what? Relationship of a variables. Maybe of two variables, maybe of three variables, maybe multiple variables. Differences of the variables, perception of the variables, okay, performance of the variable, trend, growth, reason, factor of influencing. This all thing we try to study the variables. We never study human being. We study the characteristic of a human being, and that is variable. For an example, if I want to collect a data related to height of a participant, so height is one of the variable. Variable is a data which keeps on varying, but it should be a homogeneous data. Okay, so you can study a one variable, you can study a two variable, you can study a multiple variable depending on what kind of a study you want to conduct. Now, as we have talked about what is a research objective, why there is a need of it, how it is different from research aim, and what are the important characteristics of a research objective. But exactly when we set a research objective, after that, what we have to do? There are two possibilities. Number one, to support your research objective, you can frame a hypothesis. Or in some cases, there is no need for hypothesis. For an example, if you are doing some exploratory research or fact-finding research, you may or may not have a hypothesis. Hypothesis is nothing but it is a statement. There are many books, they have various meaning and definition about hypothesis. We will going to see that also in our another PPT, with the various definition about hypothesis. But as a layman, you can say hypothesis is nothing but it is a plain statement. It is a plain statement or it is an assumption, but it should be verified by relevant review of literature and can be tested properly. So we should have a characteristic of testability. We should have a characteristic of a verifiability. We can able to verify. So when we talk about assumption, hypothesis assumption, so it cannot be anything. I cannot set in any assumption. For example, tomorrow I will fly and go to my college. No, this kind of assumptions cannot be there, because do I have any history of flying in air? If so, so I can say on so and so date I went to my college by flying. So today or tomorrow also I can go. So any statement which can be verified by relevant review of literature, it can be set a hypothesis. Otherwise, you people are aware at master level, you have read about type 1 or type 2 error. So there is a chances of committing either type 1 or type 2 error. Therefore, framing of a hypothesis is also a scientific thing. But before framing of hypothesis, it is also important to set a what? Research objectives. So in my next slide, we will going to see the relationship between research objective and hypothesis. Then we will going to discuss about the hypothesis in detail. Let's see setting of a hypothesis. How you're going to frame a hypothesis? First of all, you have to look your objectives, because your objectives and your hypothesis should go hand in hand. Otherwise, your objective is something different and you are collecting some different data, or you are testing some different data. So that make your research worthless, make your research completely waste of time. And second important thing is review of literature. As I said, hypothesis is a statement. It is an assumption, or it can be any statement, but should be verified by relevant review of literature. How many of you have read international journals paper? In that, the writing skill is completely different. There, for setting a hypothesis, they always give a reference of review of literature. Mr. A and B said this and this thing, C and D said this and this, EF said this and this. Therefore, my hypothesis is, means they are giving a proper support, proper proof or backing for framing their hypothesis. Because of these people, because of their study, I'm setting this hypothesis. Let's see some examples how we can able to make a coordination between objective and hypothesis. This is one of the examples. Suppose if your objective is to find out a relationship between A and B. I want to know the relationship between A and B. So do I know what is the relationship between A and B? There is a concept like null hypothesis or alternative hypothesis that we will going to see in detail. So we always first of all set a null hypothesis. It is said that null hypothesis is a empty hypothesis which is not set any kind of frame of mind. It is completely empty, and that is why it is called as null hypothesis. And null hypothesis always researcher want to reject. I said want to reject. I never said they going to reject. If null hypothesis got rejected, researcher is always happy because definitely he will going to get something out of it. So my null hypothesis should be there is no significant relationship between A and B. Let be very clear. I am not making any judgment whether they are brother sister, whether they are friend, whether they are colleague, or whether they are something else. I am not setting any, or I'm not making any frame of mind about the relationship between A and B. Therefore, my first objective was to find out a relationship. Okay, I found out. But what kind of a relationship it was or it will be, I don't know. So I'm saying there is no significant relation. At a first stage, as a layman, I say, I don't know whether there is a relationship or not. Let's assume I'm saying there is no relationship. If my null hypothesis got rejected, it means there is a relationship, and my alternative hypothesis is exactly opposite to my null hypothesis. There is a significant relationship between A and B. When we talk about significant level, there are a different thing. Particularly in social science, we work at 5% or 10% significance level. But when we talk about pure science, there we talk about either 0% or either a 1% significance level. How many of you know about the COVID vaccine which we have developed during COVID period? The efficiency, the efficacy of most of the vaccine was around 86 to 92, 91%, in between that. So at that time, the significance level was 8%. Let an example of, let have a second example to study the difference between A and B. Now I want to study how A is different from B. Okay, this occasionally we make a comparison between two brothers. Both are twins, but they are different from each other. So I want to know why they are different from each other, or what are the important factors which makes A different from B. So my objective will be, there is no significant difference. I'm saying they are twins, so might be there is no difference. I am going to check that. I'm going to verify that. And if it got rejected, I have to accept my alternative hypothesis, which says there is a significant difference between A and B. A and B. So up to here, we have completed the very beginning part of research objectives, and we have just touched upon the hypothesis. Up to now, if anybody have a question, they can ask me. Otherwise, I'm shifting to another PPT, which will going to talk about developing hypothesis and research question. Yes, sir. Any questions from your side?
Yes.
Hello, good afternoon, Kuldeep sir. Welcome.
Yes, ma'am. Nita ma'am. Very good morning. Good evening. Sorry.
Sir, it's nice session going on. मेरा एक query है, solve कीजिए ना. आपने बोला कुछ objectives के लिए hypothesis नहीं बनाना पड़ता है. So, sir, उस पे थोड़ा elaborate कीजिए ना.
Ma'am, for an example, development of vaccine for COVID. Yes. So there not be any hypothesis, okay? Or there was some review of literature which saying it is belongs to a family of COVID. COVID is a virus, okay? So we have thought about it is a from the family of COVID. So we have identified, no, it is not from the family of COVID. So we have talked about SARS. SARS is also one of the virus which spread in China in 2012-13. So we thought it is something like that, but it was not that also. So when we have rejected two hypotheses, then we started a fresh development of vaccine, and we said this is something which we don't know. So let's try to find out a vaccine on it. So this is called as exploratory study. We are exploring the new things. So here there is no need for setting any hypothesis. For example, doing any historical studies.
Yes.
For example, I want to identify about Lord Rama, or I want to search Lord Rama, or some of the important, places where Lord Rama or Lord Krishna went. So what is my hypothesis? My hypothesis cannot be anything because there is no literature, no anybody not have done any study before that. So I am doing exploratory study. I am searching something. So here it is difficult to set a hypothesis. Therefore, in some of the studies, we don't set a hypothesis.
Okay.
We will going to see, madam. This is a concept of inductive study and deductive study. In that, you can able to understand clearly where we have to set a hypothesis and where we don't have to set a hypothesis. For example, if you want to develop a new theory or if you want to develop a new concept, at that time there is no hypothesis. But if you want to check any concept or if you want to verify any concept, then there is a concept of hypothesis.
Okay, means जहाँ पे discovery है new things का, no hypothesis.
Yes, ma'am. For example, Vasco da Gama found a particular place.
That
So before leaving from Portuguese, have he decided that I will going to identify anything? So he never made anything. Yes, when it comes to sorry, I have given wrong example. I should have given example of Columbus. But when Vasco da Gama started his journey, he was having some thing in his mind. I want to identify India, but ultimately he landed to South Africa. So when Vasco da Gama started, he started with some hypothesis. But when Columbus started, he was doing exploratory study. So at that time there was no hypothesis.
okay. In case of exploratory studies, we need not have a hypothesis.
Yes, ma'am. And it is important to know which study is exploratory study and which study is descriptive study.
Yes. Sir, there is one question in the chat box.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, while framing hypothesis, is it always necessary to have both null and alternate hypothesis, or we can
That we will going to discuss. In my conclusion of this, hypothesis slide, I have mentioned about that thing. The entire world talks about two types of hypothesis: null and alternative. Okay, null and alternative, because it is always said when you start doing a research, the researcher should be unbiased.
Yes.
Okay, so we should not carry any frame of mind. So when we do not carry any frame of mind, that means whatever hypothesis we are setting, it should be a null hypothesis. Okay, and alternative is something I should say complementary with null hypothesis. If null hypothesis got rejected, then alternative we have to accept. So alternative is a substitute of null hypothesis. But suppose if I want to set a positive hypothesis, I'm saying A is a brother of B. So this is not a null hypothesis because I have set a frame of mind. Okay? So here, this hypothesis cannot be called as a null hypothesis, and without a null hypothesis, you cannot set an alternative hypothesis. So what kind of hypothesis this particular is? So at that time, this hypothesis can be called positive hypothesis. We cannot tell this particular hypothesis as an alternative. So instead of alternative, we are saying this hypothesis is either a working hypothesis or a directional hypothesis. So basically, it is said that you always work on null hypothesis. But if your evidence is solid and you have done a proper evaluation, you are in a favor that this particular thing belongs. So you can work with a working hypothesis or a directional hypothesis. It is a supportive statement. Ma'am, I'm not getting you. What do you mean by supportive statement? Remember,
it regards whatever you are discussing in that concept only. I have given this idea that it is alternative hypothesis. It is nothing but supportive statement kind of thing. Support the null hypothesis.
Yes, you can say that. But null hypothesis is exactly opposite to null hypothesis. So yes, you can say it is a supportive statement, or it is a complementary statement, or it is a substitute statement of a null hypothesis. If null got rejected, this is what we have to accept.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else want to ask anything, or shall we proceed? Okay. Now, in this particular slide, we will going to see introduction of a hypothesis. As you know, just 10-12 minutes before I spoke about.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, Bhakti, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to ask if I'm developing a product and I want to, I'm developing around 3 to 4 variants of the same product, and I want to know which is the most preferred by the people who are testing it. So, what would be the hypothesis in this case?
If you want to develop a product, madam, this is
Yes, sir.
this is completely exploratory study, because you have not developed any theory, you have not developed any product, you are in the process of developing. So once you have developed the product, then you will going to check your product.
Yes, sir.
So this is exploratory study, you are exploring the thing.
Yes, sir.
So here there is no need for hypothesis.
Okay, sir. So the title would be just to develop a product and evaluate with respect to the sensory parameters.
You can go for that also.
Okay, sir.
Remember one thing,
Yes.
you know, ma'am, first of all, when we talk about PhD studies, okay, it is always said without a hypothesis, how you have made a proposal. But, I should say, we as a research guide, I'm not saying about any research guide, but I'm including myself also. We first of all should understand there might be a study, there might be a PhD thesis without a hypothesis.
Okay, sir.
Otherwise, if you going to make your proposal without a hypothesis, there is a chances of getting rejected if you cannot able to convey your message properly.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
So we will also going to see in this slide, in this particular PPT, process involved before formulation of the hypothesis, definitions, nature of hypothesis, types, how we can formulate, the various types of research, type 1, type 2 error, and the summary of the hypothesis. So this is how we have to set a hypothesis. Your hypothesis always like this way. We have to take a broad theme, then we have to narrow down, and after that, whatever conclusion, whatever analysis or research finding we find out, we want to generalize, then it again go broad at the bottom. So this is exactly how this research goes. When you start in the beginning, you are taking a broad concept, then you are narrow down the things. Okay, you make your study very specific, you analyze, you find out a research conclusion, and this research conclusion you want to generalize on the population. So when you generalize anything, it always have a broad base. So this is some of the important criteria for formulating research problem or research objective. So here we are not going to see upon the research questions or research problem, but we are more interested in knowing what is a hypothesis. As I said, there are so many definitions, there are so many meaning of it. I have wrote some of the definitions and meaning of hypothesis, which is stated by various people like Roger and Kallinger and Crosswell. There are so many people. What the Roger says, hypotheses are single tentative guesses, could hatches assumed for use in diversifying theory or planning experiment, intend to given a direct experiment test when possible. Okay, so this is a definition, and we always have to read between the line definition. Sometime if you cannot able to understand definition properly, it may take you to the wrong direction. Kallinger says 1956, in 1956 he says hypothesis is something conjectural statement of the relation between two or more variables. So hypothesis try to find out a relationship or a differences, or the impact of one variable on the another variable. So Hypothesis is nothing but it is the correlation or try to conjoin the statement which includes two different variables. Okay. Basically, there are three types of hypothesis: univariate, bivariate, and multivariate. So in univariate, we always have a one variable. For an example, if I want to set a null hypothesis of a univariate, I can say the average height of a classroom equal to not equal to 45. So here the variable is height. So this kind of a hypothesis are known as univariate hypothesis, where we have only one hypothesis. If we have collected all the data in scale way, then we can use one sample t-test. If we have collected in a non-parametric way, we can use either a chi-square or one rank pair test. Similarly, the another person, Criswell, says 1994, hypothesis is a formal statement that present the expected relationship between an independent and dependent variable. We always try to find out a relationship between two variables. So two variable can be a dependent variable, it can be an independent or dependent variable, depending on your study, what exactly you want to study. Okay, so when we talk about bivariate hypothesis, we always have two variables. I can say there is no correlation between A and B, or there is no relationship between A and B. There is no differences between A and B. So A is one variable, B is another variable. The another person says research question is essential. A hypothesis asked in a form of a question. Some more definitions. So I'm going to circulate this slide with all of you so you can see the another definition of hypothesis. A very interesting hypothesis. As you know, hypotheses are always in declarative sentence form, and they relate either generally or specific variable to variable. The first one is also very good. It is a tentative prediction about the nature of the relationship between two or more variables. So when it is a multivariate, you have more than two variables. If it is a bivariate, you can have two variables. Sometimes you can also predict a single variable. For an example, if I want to evaluate the attentiveness of the participant, so attentiveness is one variable. So let's see the nature of hypothesis. What should be the characteristic of hypothesis? Hypothesis कैसा होना चाहिए? The hypothesis is a clear statement of what is intent to be invested. It should be specific before research is conducted and openly stated in reporting the results. This will going to help you to achieve, number one, identify your research objective, identify the keywords or key concept or key theories, okay, that are there in your research, and the most important thing, it try to find out or it try to stabilize or try to develop a relationship between problems and your review of literature, what you want to and what you have achieved. For an example, there are 100 people who have done the research and they come to a certain conclusion, but you alone getting some different result. So there might be a chances of error in your research, might be a sampling error or might be a analysis error. It can be anything. You might have committed type 1 or type 2 error. So it try to stabilize a relationship between your study and the study which is done by someone else. And what the study done by someone else, from that you can able to find out your research problem or problem statement. Let's see the nature of hypothesis. This is something which is very clearly written. It can be tested. Hypothesis, once the hypothesis set, it is compulsory to be tested. Okay, you cannot leave your hypothesis without testing. But for that, the hypothesis should have a property of testability. This is what I've said in the beginning itself. Number two, hypotheses are not moral or ethical question. it is something which is related to data. What the data says, that we will going to represent. So when we are testing a hypothesis, we are testing a data. We are testing a information. So it is not something related to what is ethical and what is not ethical. Okay. Touching the feet of your elder one, it is ethical or not ethical. So on that, a research hypothesis cannot be tested, because at some particular religion it is a respectful thing, but in some another religion it is not at all acceptable that you are touching the feet of someone else. So it is something depends to a tradition, something related to custom. So those kind of a thing cannot be tested. It is neither too specific nor too general. When you say specific, so I'm only talking about one particular thing. I'm only talking about one particular person, or I'm talking about one particular concept. So it should not be too specific, it should not be too general, but it should have a I should group of a people which you are testing. It is a prediction of a consequences. Definitely, when you run a regression model, or when you run a different analysis, you always try to predict the impact of one variable on the another variable. It is considered valuable if it proven false. We can say that because whenever we try to set a hypothesis, we always try to check our null hypothesis. Null hypothesis is something which says that there is nothing in this research. If there is nothing in this research, then why you are doing a research? So that is why I said in the beginning, researcher is always happy if the null hypothesis get rejected. If your null hypothesis is not rejected, that means there might be some. I'm not saying it should not be accepted. It can be accepted, but on some different condition, like COVID condition. COVID is something which was exception condition. So here the results of previous study may show a different result. So there your null hypothesis may be accepted, but 90%, or I should say more than 95% researcher want to reject their null hypothesis. Type of hypothesis, null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. As I said, when we talk about null hypothesis, that means we do not have any frame of mind. This we have already discussed. Okay, null hypothesis will always be denoted by H subscript O, okay, or N H unsubscripted N. N stands for null. O means 0. Okay. Similarly, your alternative hypothesis always be denoted by H small 1, 0 and 1, because this is a binary language. In binary language, 0 means nothing, 1 means something. Okay, because those who understand data analysis part and those who know to run spaces, they know, particularly while we're doing analysis, either with the help of Excel or either with the help of space or some other software, they only understand the language of 0, 1. They don't understand yes, no. Or you can also denote alternative hypothesis with subscript A. Okay. H for hypothesis, A for alternative hypothesis. Now let's see. When we talk about null hypothesis, what exactly null hypothesis means? Null hypothesis represents a theory that has been put forward either because it is believed to be true or because it is to be used as a basis for argument, but has not been proved. Okay, so when I'm saying this is what, there is no relationship between A and B, so this is not proved. Okay, I don't know, that is I'm saying this kind of a hypothesis. I'm setting this kind of hypothesis. If I'm sure that A is a brother of B, then I should not be developing null hypothesis. I am working on directional hypothesis. Now here I will going to check how significant relationship A and B have. I want to see the association. I want to see the strength of their relationship. Okay, so there I work on working hypothesis or directional hypothesis. So when alternative hypothesis we talk about, or we said, it is nothing but it is, as I said, opposite of a null hypothesis. Only reach if null hypothesis rejected. If there is no relationship, that means there is a relationship, either a relationship or either no relationship. तो क्या तो null accept होगा, क्या alternative. अगर null reject होगा ही नहीं, then there is no chance that you are reaching to a alternative hypothesis. So alternative hypothesis, the work of alternative hypothesis come into picture when you reject a null hypothesis. So here we have some examples in a clinical trial of a new drug. The null hypothesis might that the new drug is no better on average or that the current drug. So you have a different possibilities that new drug is not up to the mark. Okay, that means drug do not have a significant impact on the patient. Number two, can have or have not, जिसको बोलते हैं ना, equal to or not equal to, means may or may not have a impact on patient. Okay, and the third possibility is the new drug also have a same impact what the old drug is having. Okay, so here we can set a hypothesis like there is no significant difference between two drugs on average. I'm saying both the drugs have a same kind of performance. So there is no difference between old and new drugs. Now we have to prove that there is a difference. So here, when you are developing something, you always try to prove that it is something different than the old one. Then only you can able to make some significant research. Otherwise, there is no use of it. If the new drug is same as the old one, then why you are developing a drug, new drugs? There is no need of it. Therefore, here researcher always get happy when null hypothesis got rejected, that there is no significant difference. When it get rejected, I can say there is a significant difference. And if there is a significant difference, then whatever I have developed is a different vaccine or different drug. Now the another question is, which one have a more impact? That is a different area of a research. But in a first basic research, I can able to identify that my new drug is completely different from the old one. The alternative hypothesis might be the two drugs have a different impact on average. As I said, there is no difference. And alternative is there is a difference. So there is a difference between two drugs. So similarly, this is how you can able to develop a hypothesis. This is something related to your consideration about null hypothesis. If it is accepted, then there is no need for alternative hypothesis. If it is rejected, then only we go to alternative hypothesis. Otherwise, there is no need for it. Now let's see. We always have a two type of research: qualitative and quantitative. Anybody from your side can tell me what is the difference between qualitative and quantitative? Yes. Anybody? Let's see. Qualitative research. Basically, in qualitative research, we try to work on a frequency data, we work on a categorical data, we work on a fine statements. Okay, so basically when we talk about qualitative research, our main data which we are collecting are always in the form of non-metric, are always in the form of non-metric. For example, if I am asking how much you like about a one particular car, you are liking about particular car, you cannot say 1 kg I like, 2 kg I like, or 1 feet, 2 feet, or 1 feet, 3 feet I like. You cannot say. So for that we have to develop some scale. And what is the rule of those scale? Converting your qualitative data into a quantify your qualitative data. So when we talk about qualitative approach, here basically I use a words what and how. Okay, specifically I discover, seek to understand, explore, describe, or try to find out experience. So here basically I always try to ask open-ended question. So in open-ended question, your response can be anything. I'm saying describe Bharat College. Some people may talk about positive, some people may talk about negative, some people talks about their surroundings, some people talks about the quality of the college, some people talks about their merit list, some people talks about the area which the campus of a college. So when you ask open-ended question, you should be ready of getting a different quality of responses. And here you are not restricted of one particular. So here the chances of getting a frequency data are more, categorical data are more. Therefore, here when we, for an example, when we conduct this kind of research, qualitative, when we want to develop, when we want to set a theory or some understanding or some frame of mind for someone. Let have an example. Very good example we have when we talk about teachers or a resource person. You ask a friend, tomorrow there is a lecture of this particular guy, how is he or how is she? So she might be giving you responses in qualitative. She will not going to say, or he will not going to say like this way, the speaker is 5 feet 10 inch, the speaker is this much weight, he is wearing this color shirt or having specs or not. This is not a quality of a person. When you talk about speaker, the quality is a teaching style, in-depth knowledge, okay, the understanding or the way of explaining, the communication skill. These are something which are intangible. So for that purpose, we always try to conduct a qualitative research. Similarly, when we talk about quantitative approach, in the quantitative approach, we always try to collect a data in a metric form like height, weight, okay, then mode of communication, English, Hindi, Marathi. So here we are collecting data, and that data should always be useful in comparing or try to set up a relationship or try to find out a difference between two variables or more than two variables. Therefore, when you talk about qualitative approach, here testing of hypothesis become little simple. Otherwise, when we do historical research or when we do PhDs or research in languages like literature, there we always talk about qualitative data. But when we do research in commerce, science, okay, or a field from where we can able to collect the data are quantitative approach. Before that, I want to discuss one more thing. That is, we have two types of research, inductive and deductive research. So now, what is the difference between inductive and deductive research? So when I talk about number one, a research, a particular research, which one? Inductive or deductive? So when I talk about number one, first one, inductive research, when inductive research is something which try to set up a differences, or I should say inductive research always reasoning move for a specific observation to a broad generalization, and deductive reasoning the way away around. So in deductive, we particular work on a theory which is worked by someone else, and accordingly we will try to set up our own conclusion. So particularly in inductive research, when there is a little or there is no literature available on a particular topic. So what you do, you try to find out some inputs by the way of observation. And here you can able to record first-hand information, and on the information you try to set up some patterns, and then pattern you try to check whether this pattern is correct or not. A very good example is of exploratory study and confirmatory study. So first of all, you conduct an exploratory study where you identify some variables, and once you have identified some variables, then you conduct a confirmatory research to generalize your or to confirm your theory. Let an example. How many of you know about SQL model, which was developed by Parshuraman? So Parshuraman talk about 5 factors. So how he have identified the 5 factors? First of all, he might have taken 20, 30, 40 factors, and on that 20, 50 factors, he conducted a research, and then he shortlisted might be a 7 or 8 factors, okay, about a service quality. And after that, when he confirmed these 7 factors, he came to know that only 5 factors are important in SQL model, and therefore this theory of SQL model is developed by him. So confirmatory and exploratory study is a good example of inductive, whereas in deductive you already have a theory with you. Okay, basically what we are doing in social science is a deductive research where we have a theory. On the basis of theory, we try to set up a hypothesis, we collect the data, we collect the observation, we test or analyze those observations, and then we confirm what was the theory was correct or not. So the only difference between inductive and deductive is, in inductive we try to set up a new theory because there is no theory, and therefore when we set a hypothesis, it is always a tentative one, or sometimes there is no hypothesis at all. Okay, so inductive study is a type of a exploratory study, whereas when we talk about deductive study, we already have a theory which is developed by someone else. We are checking those theories by a different data set, and then we confirm, okay, what they have told is applicable on my data set also, or my data is completely different, that is what they have said is not exactly implemented, but somewhat it is implemented. So that is the difference between inductive and deductive. In social science, basically we are going, we do a deductive research where first of all we go for review of literature, we have the concept, we have the theory, we have certain understanding about the topic, then we set a hypothesis, we collect the data, we analysis, and then we confirm through our conclusion, through our findings, through our inferences, that what the theory says is correct or wrong. This is something related to generalization of research. Problem becomes research hypothesis when construct our when you construct your hypothesis when it is operational. And here a small chart is given where it started with initial ideas. Okay, so initial ideas converted into a initial observation. Okay, or this is an example of both the research, inductive as well as deductive. So when you have an initial idea and you are creating an initial observation, then here we are going for inductive one. This is something going for inductive one, and this is something going for deductive one, where we have already have a literature and we try to find out a research literature, and both will take you to a one common thing, that is statement of problem. And from the statement of problem, you try to develop a research objective, and as I said, specifically for deductive prediction. In inductive, I said most of the time we don't have a hypothesis, because if we have a hypothesis, it is always tentative one, as I have written here. We always have a tentative one. It is not a confirmed hypothesis because we are not aware whether this hypothesis will be tested or not. So here we always have a tentative, and therefore many people don't keep a hypothesis itself. And after observation, then they work on pattern and then directly they try to develop a theory. But if you want to check, you can keep a tentative hypothesis. Whereas in deductive, theory, hypothesis, observation, and confirmation have a clear step. And the same thing we have written here. When you have deductive one, straight away you are going for setting of hypothesis. Here I have written very clear, specific deductive prediction. This is some of the example of X and Y which we have already given in the first slide. Yes, when you are going for testing of hypothesis, some of the important thing which you have to test. Number one, verification of your hypothesis, justification of verification, justification, okay, validity, rectification, repetition, falsification. They all are done through a proper review of literature. If the review of literature is not proper and you have not, frame your hypothesis out of a review of literature, this kind of a problem or these challenges may occur in front of you. So hypothesis testing are very simple. First of all, you have to set a null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis. Accordingly, you take a decision, okay, collect the data, evaluate your null hypothesis. Evaluate a null hypothesis means test your null hypothesis. And if your null hypothesis is accepted, don't go for alternative. If not accepted, then go with alternative hypothesis. Type 1, 2, type 2 error, I think there is no need to discuss about it. Type 1 error is, everybody knows, when you wrongly reject a null hypothesis. And type 2 error means when you not rejecting your falsy null hypothesis. Here the picture is very clearly given in a chart. For example, if my null hypothesis is right and I have rejected, if my null hypothesis is correct and I have rejected, it is a type 1 error. Okay. And suppose if my null hypothesis is correct, right decision I've taken, but do not reject null hypothesis. I have accepted. I should reject. Okay. This is type 2 error. Let's see once again. The decision was right, but I have rejected my null hypothesis. It is a type 1 error. Wrongly rejected the null hypothesis or wrongly accepted the null hypothesis, type 2 error. And type 1, type 2 error, you can able to easily eliminate by doing a proper review of literature. Once the review is up to the mark, once you have done a sufficient review of literature, you have a sufficient document to support your review of literature, the chances of type 1, type 2 error are minimum. So this is the summary which is very important. Research question and hypothesis becomes a sign point for explanation for the purpose of the studying and guiding the research. This is a Creswell 1994 have explained. We have seen the definition. A hypothesis is an explanation, tentative solution, I should say, or tentative answer to your question, and unsure of itself for specific phenomena about which you have questioned. So sometimes it is not specific, but yes, moreover, it tried to answer your question, not specifically, but yes. Suppose I'm saying there is no relationship between A and B, but I said there is a relationship. But what kind of a relationship? For that, we have to do a separate study. A well-crafted hypothesis very often suggests the best way to perform the research and gives you clue as to your research design. And therefore, deductive and inductive research are very important. Understanding of this two types of research are very important. Whether you want to conduct a deductive research and accordingly you have to set a hypothesis. If you are conducting an inductive, then there is a need or there is no need that you have to decide. If there is a need, then you can set a tentative hypothesis, okay, which you may reject later on. Reject means you can completely remove hypothesis once you have understood the study or once you develop the theory. So research hypothesis can either be non-directional or a directional. As I said, no? Null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis. If I want to set a alternative hypothesis instead of null hypothesis, then that hypothesis either be called as directional, non-directional, or a working hypothesis. But it cannot be called as alternative. Alternative is always be called when you have a opposite hypothesis, that is null hypothesis. So without a null hypothesis, there is no role of alternative hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis always come in a picture when you have a null hypothesis. Otherwise, the same hypothesis can be called as directional, non-directional, or working hypothesis. So thus we conclude that it would be a fitting to say hypothesis is perhaps the most powerful tool man has invented to achieve dependable knowledge. Fred Cullinger. So this is from my side. If anybody want to ask any question on framing of research objective, we can discuss. Then after this, we can start with a new slide, that is how to develop a qualitative questionnaire. Yes, any question from your side?
So one question was there in the chat box. Can you please discuss type 1 and type 2 error? Actually, I think it is covered no, in that PPT only.
Yes, madam, it is covered. Shweta madam,
हाँ,
वो हो गया है cover. Still, if someone wants clarity, then we can go for it.
so now we will take a break for 5 minutes. Yes, madam. And then we will start with our next session.
Oh, sorry. I think I have muted myself and then I'm explaining the thing. I'm so sorry.
I thought, sir, you were talking to someone maybe on a call.
No. I don't know what, I think by mistake I've clicked on a mute button and I've forgotten. Let me explain, ma'am. Just give me a 1 minute to explain type 1 and type 2 error.
Okay, sir.
Type 1 error is nothing but it is a error where you wrongly reject a true null hypothesis. Let an example. Suppose there is a null hypothesis that there is a no relationship between two variables. Let's take an example of audience. There is one girl Aditi and another girl Poonam. I'm saying there is no relationship between Aditi and Poonam. Okay, this is the correct one, but I want to check. Ultimately, wrongly, I have rejected my null hypothesis and I'm saying no, there is a relationship between Aditi and Poonam, but actually it is wrong. So here I'm committing type 1 error. But how we can avoid type 1 error? By doing a proper review of literature. This can only be done. Suppose this kind of error is only be done when I don't have information about Poonam as well as Aditi. And I am without knowing information, I'm saying there is no relationship. And ultimately I've said, okay, there is a relationship. It means I have wrongly rejected a null hypothesis. And type 2 error is nothing but it is exactly opposite to it, where we are wrongly accept null hypothesis. For example, if I'm talking about Savita ma'am and Neetu ma'am, both works in the same college, but I'm not aware, and I'm saying there is no relationship between Savita ma'am and Neetu ma'am, and I have accepted my null hypothesis, but exactly it is wrong. So this is type 2 error. I hope I made it clear. Moses. Yes, Aditi, correct. Type 1 error is most dangerous. Why we say most dangerous? Because we always try, the researcher always try to reject null hypothesis, and that is why without proper having a review literature, 90%, when you talk about type 1 or type 2 error, 90% people commit type 1 error, and that is why it is dangerous. And that that you can able to recognize very easily that researcher have not done a proper review of literature. That is why this error take place, and chances of committing type 2 error is very nominal. Anyone else? So I hope we all require a break of 5 minutes.
Yes, yes, sir. We will take a break for 5 minutes and then we will continue.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Participants, please fill the feedback form for session 1.
Can we start, Brushali madam?
Yes, ma'am. Kuldeep sir, we can start.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay, good evening all. Welcome you again and welcome sir. It was really informative session on objectives and hypothesis. Now we will start with the topic of framing of questionnaires. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Now, let me share my PPT related to how to develop a good questionnaire. Questionnaire is something, which is very important. In research, we always says, if your instrument of data collection is not up to the mark, we will going to collect wrong information. And once we have collected a wrong information, our research findings, research conclusion, and moreover, the inferences of research will be completely waste. So there is a famous pro in research, garbage in, garbage out. So this is why it is very important to develop a good questionnaire. Now here we will going to see what kind of a questionnaire should be there, how we should ask a questionnaire, whether it should be open-ended or a closed-ended. Okay, what information we should try to collect and what information we try to avoid. For example, whenever we make a questionnaire, first section of our question is always be related to personal information of the respondent. Some people says it is a personal information, but some people says this is one of the important demographic factors which we cannot avoid, such as gender. Gender really plays very important, and on the basis of gender, this entire society is divided. If you talk about male and female, they're liking, they're disliking, their clothing, their, I should say, their eating habits, their, makeups, their creams, their hairstyle, everything is different. So how you can avoid this important factor? Similarly, we have a class on the basis of income. We have a class on the basis of education. So this is something which we really feel important and we collect information. Sometimes researcher also ask a name and email ID of a person. Sometimes we consider this is a completely irrelevant information. We are not concerned about the name of a person. We are only think about the respondent. So for us, respondent 1, 2, 3 are important rather than their name. So let's begin with our PPT. Now I'm asking question to all of you. What is a questionnaire, or what do you think about questionnaire? I expect some, answer from your side. Now let's make this session little more interactive so that we all can contribute in development of a good questionnaire. Yes. Nobody? In research, we can say research is one of the important tool for collecting a responses. It is an important instrument of collecting a responses. Yes, there are some responses which is coming. It is a method of collecting data. No, ma'am, it is not a method of data collecting. It is an instrument of data collecting. Method can be many. Method of data collection is primary method or a secondary method. Or it can be, we can able to collect an interview through interview method, through, I should say observation method, or through personal interview, anything. Questionnaire is something and questionnaire method is different. List of questions to collect the information. Okay. It is answer of our research after analysis. Okay, this is something different, but okay, I really appreciate. Different out of box thinking is always be appreciated. Yes. Question is nothing but it is a written document. It is a written, statement. It is a instrument. It is a, I should say, it is a mechanism of collecting a data. Let's see. Questionnaire are a set of a written question designed to gather standardized information about the opinion, preferences, experience, intentions, and behavior of individuals, and can be devised for the purpose of scientific study. Remember one thing, when I say standardized information, when we say standardized means we want to collect the same kind of information from all the responses. There should not be any differences between the questions. There should not be a differences between the responses. And that is why we always say for testing a hypothesis, particularly parametric test, we always say our data should be homogeneous and data should be normally distributed. So homogeneous data can be collected only with the help of standardized questionnaires. Okay, where all the questionnaires should have a same kind of a question. And that is why it is called as instrument of data collection. So what is a good questionnaire? The good questionnaire are those questionnaire which going to collect the same kind of responses again and again from different people. For an example, if same responses or same questionnaire are given to a same person 3-4 times with a gap of 2-3 days, and every time getting something different responses, that means my questionnaire or my instrument is a faulty instrument. Let's have an example of weight machine. Suppose I have a weight machine at my home. In the morning, I have checked my weight. I got 68 kg. In the afternoon, after having a meal, I have checked my weight. Now it's showing me 65. I went for a walk. Okay. After a walk of 1 hour, I have checked my weight and it's showing me 72. And at the night, again, it showed me around 65. Do you think my weight machine is normal or there is a problem with me? Yes. If there is a problem with me, then I have to take care of myself. But if it is a problem with a machine, what should I say? What should I say? Whether my machine is proper or not. Is my machine is good? No, I cannot say. There is a problem in machine. So I need a good machine to check my weight, because good machine will going to show me the same weight again and again, despite of my meal or despite of my walk. There might be a difference of 1, 2, 3 or 100, 200 gram here and there. But moreover, my weight will remain same. Okay. Similarly, the same thing there with the good questionnaire. Good questionnaire are those questionnaire which gives the same kind of a response again and again with different people, or we collect the response from the same people again and again. Let's see what is a good questionnaire is all about. A good questionnaire should be validate, reliable, clear, interesting, and concise. This is one of the important characteristic of a good questionnaire. Your questionnaire should be reliable. If I have a faulty weight machine with me, I cannot able to rely on the number which is given by my weight machine. I cannot validate my weight. I cannot say this is the exact weight I have, because there is always a possibility of error. I am not clear about my weight. And when I talk about interesting, yes, definitely my weight machine is not at all interesting. Similarly, a questionnaire should be interested so that a responses should be, or a respondent should respond correctly, and it should not be lengthy. It should be very concise. How to design a good questionnaire? How to design a good questionnaire? Remember one thing, for designing a questionnaire, again, I'm coming to one important thing. When you do a research, the research process starts with review of literature, identification of research gap, setting of hypothesis, setting of objective, formulation of hypothesis. Okay. After formulation of hypothesis, you have to design your research, means how you want to collect data, what should be the instrument. Okay. And then designing your instrument. So your designing of an instrument is clearly depending on your objective, clearly depending on your hypothesis. What exactly you want to check in your hypothesis? Somebody want to ask anything? Okay. So what exactly I want to check in my hypothesis? For an example, I want to check a relationship between A and B. So there might be, or there should be, a question related to that particular point. If I'm saying the average height of this classroom is equal to not equal to this much, or average weight of this classroom is equal to not equal to this much. So my question, one question should be related to height, one question related to weight. If I'm talking about interest of the participant in the workshop, so my question should be related to the awareness or interest level or satisfaction level of my participant. So accordingly, your questionnaire should be designed. Number one, developing a conceptual framework. Concept is very important to develop. How many of you, I don't know about model building? We always tell our student when they admitted to PhD, the number one thing we tell them, go for review of literature, at least 50, 60, either research paper or a books or a thesis. Try to identify the variables. Once they have identified the variable, then it is easy for them to identify their relationship or their differences or their dependence. And accordingly, they have to draw a model on it. So once the model is clear, once you have identified the flow chart of your research, it is very simple for you to design a questionnaire. So number one is developing the conceptual framework, research model. Second is asking a right question. Now, what is the right question? Again, this is a debatable area. If I'm asking someone, what is your age? For a male, it might be a right question. But for a female, it may hurt them, or it may be an objectionable question. So who will going to decide which question is right and which question is wrong? The way of drafting of your statement will going to decide whether it is a right question or not. For example, I'm asking age, and I'm asking age in a bracket or some interval. For example, between 20 to 25, 25 to 30, 30 to 35. So I'm asking your age in bracket. So here, even female don't have an objection telling their age. Similarly, the same thing happens with the gents. Don't ask their income. This is what we always heard about from our forefathers or our seniors, that don't ask salary question to your male colleague. And we personally found this thing, male got hurted when we discussed salaries. So they are again asked in a bracket. So let them give a good coverage. Give them a bracket of 5 lakh to 10 lakh. So if they come in that particular bracket, they can easily tick it, because they know that you don't know exact age, salary, but you are getting most important data that this particular person belongs to this category. Third one is close-ended versus open-ended question. Both questions are important. Only thing is that you should know where to ask close-ended question and where to ask open-ended question. Let an example. When I'm talking about which city do you like? Which city do you like? I have given you only 10 options, 10 metropolitan city. Okay, means what? I'm studying about this 10 metropolitan city. You have to choose any one of them. If I ask open-ended question here, which city do you like? Some people may write city which is near to their native place. Near to their native place. Might be some people like Murwad. Some people like Asangaon. Some people write Dhanu. Yes, they are town. So here again, when you have open-ended question here, there might be so many responses. It will going to become so difficult for you that you cannot able to analyze. Therefore, here you have to ask close-ended question. Now question comes, where to ask open-ended question. Open-ended questions are always be advisable when you want to ask their opinion. Okay, for example, any modification, any suggestion about the modification of the particular product, or any suggestion to improve the quality of workshop. Okay, so always write in the bracket in 20 words, in 30 words. So here, moreover, you will get an idea what exactly they want or participant want from the organizer, that what should be included in the workshop. Either a content, or might be a speaker, or might be a mode of communication, or might be an offline or online mode. Exactly what thing you need. So there, we need your suggestion. We don't have any idea what a participant thinks about workshop, and therefore we ask an open-ended question. Hence, it is important that you should be in a position to know that which question should be open-ended and which question should be asked close-ended. When you want to ask any question related to your research objectives or hypothesis, it has to be a close-ended most of the time. I'm not saying always, I'm saying most of the time. But if you want to also give some suggestions in your research project or research work, then you may ask some question where you are asking for their suggestions, their experience, their opinions, and this question might be a open-ended. Now next is option and choice. Option and choice are the same thing. In questions we have sometimes gives options and we also give choice in that. For example, which movie do you like? Which movie do you like? Within a bracket, I have said multiple ticks are allowed. This is called as polyautonomous questions. Or more specifically, it is called as polyautonomous nominal questions. Nominal questions on nominal data are divided into two parts: dichotomy and polyautonomy. Dichotomy and polyautonomy. In polyautonomy, or in polyautonomous are also known as multinomial. In multinomial, we have two options: single tick and multiple tick. So this is the option of multiple tick, where you can select more than one movie which you like the most. Okay, so here it is important whether you want to record a multiple response or you want to collect a specific response. Sometime when you ask a question related to rank the services which you like the most, or rank the speaker which you like the most, so there we have a multiple responses. We have a rank system. So all the speaker getting some rank. Or when you write, select some or select any speaker which you like the most. Within a bracket, you write multiple ticks are allowed. So they might like 2 or 3 speakers. So it is purely depending on you, what kind of a responses you want. Remember one thing, the treatment are different for multiple responses and treatment are completely different from single tick responses. Single tick are basically gives you a very clear cut information that which particular, for example, where the single tick works. You belongs to which religion? You belongs to which religion? Within a bracket I have written multiple ticks are allowed. Will it be possible to tick multiple? No, it cannot be. So some questions are where by default respondent have to respond anyone. Either you can be a Christian, either you can be a Muslim, or either you can be a Sikh. You cannot be all the at the same time. That cannot be possible. Similarly, your birthplace. Okay, I've given 4 options. Okay, can you able to tick all, or can you able to tick more than one? No, I can take birth only at one particular place. I cannot be a person where I can take a birth at 2 different places at the same time. So some responses are by default single tick and some responses are by default multiple tick. That you have to take care, and accordingly you have to ask a question. Order of questions. This is one of the important thing which we discuss a lot, and a lots of workshop which take place for deciding the sequence of the questions. What should be asked first? There are 2 thought of a school. One thought of a school says always ask personal questions first. For an example, age, qualification, height, income, profession, because it gives belongingness. Belongingness of the questionnaire. So respondent feels this question is related to me. This is my questionnaire. Because when you ask a personal questionnaire, always person get attached to it. The another thought of school says, don't ask personal question first, because the respondent might get bored in giving responses about him, and sometimes he feel that why should I share my information with them? Okay, so once they set up a negative mindset, so whatever information they will provide a fake information. So there are 2 thought of a school, and both are correct. But now it is up to us which sample technique we are using. Either we are using probability or non-probability. Okay, if we are using probability, then what should be there? If we are using non-probability, then which non-probability? Convenience, snowball, or how we will going to collect a voluntary sampling technique? What exactly we will do? Judgmental, or what exactly? And accordingly we can set a sequence. But universally it is seen that people ask general information first and then research oriented questions. As I said, I've already put it 2 different thoughts in front of you. Now while discussing while discussing about your research title, your research topic, or your research objective, you can discuss with your guide, discuss with your friend, colleague, philosopher, and accordingly you can take a call on that. What should be the order of the questions in your questionnaire? But basically it is said that your questionnaire should be divided into two sections, general information and research oriented, so that the respondent should know which is a more specific question and which are a general questions. Likert scale. Likert scale is an instrument, or I should say it is a mechanism of converting your qualitative data into quantitative data. So Likert scale quantify your qualitative data. I think everybody knows about Likert scale. Likert scale are of 3 point, 5 point, 7 point, 9 point, 11 point, 13 point. Okay. But basically we use either a 5 point or a 7 point. Either a 5 point or a 7 point Likert scale. Here, the important thing is that while asking a question through a Likert scale, you should be very particular, very specific about which Likert scale you are using. Whether you are using formative scale or whether you are using reflective scale. When you are using formative scale, all the statement which you are putting in the Likert scale are considered as a different from each other. Okay. For an example, my statement is my washing machine working good. My television working good. My scooter is working good. All are different things. Okay. But when I'm asking reflective scale, so all my question talking or giving a direction in the same direction. For an example, my liking towards practical subject. So my question will be, I like calculation, I like formula, I like maths, I like numbers. So all these things are there in the practical subject, isn't it? So when we are asking satisfaction level of a respondent towards their commuting through a public passenger transport. Suppose I'm traveling through a BHT bus. So how to evaluate my satisfaction? Satisfaction related to condition of the bus. So in that I have 5 statements. All 5 statements talks about the bus condition. So this is a reflective scale. Under a reflective scale, I can quantify my qualitative data. Whereas under formative scale, all the statements are considered differently, and therefore this all data are considered as ordinal data instead of quantitative data. Next is avoid double-barreled question. Double-barreled question are those questions which gives a 2 different meaning or 2 different directions. So do not understand whether you have to accept with the statement or you have to reject the statement. Okay. When you are asking about, for an example, I'm giving questions, like, when I say, I like day because of moon. So now here 2 contradictory statements are given. In a day, there is no moon. So I don't know whether the responses which I'm giving for liking for day or liking for a moon. So this is a double-barreled question, and this kind of a question should be avoided. Otherwise, when you give a same questionnaire to a same person, after 2 days, you might get some different responses. And when you are getting a different responses from the same crowd or same population, it means there is a validity issue, there is a reliability issue in your question. Then we have a next is avoid ambiguous question. Ambiguous question are some questions which are very confusing, like we are asking gender. So instead of gender, if I ask sex and I put a dash, so people have different mind. Some says yes or no, some say male, female, some say something different. So don't ask ambiguous question or double meaning question, ask gender. So when you ask a gender, definitely people will talk about male and female. So don't ask this kind of a thing. Then design the questionnaire with analysis in mind. Remember one thing, I don't know how many of you are doing PhD, but those who are doing PhD or those who have done a PhD, you might recollect, or you might got an experience when you discuss your questionnaire with your guide. Your guide always tell this thing: show your questionnaire to some statistician. And when you go and show your questionnaire to some statistician says, "Nini, remove this question don't have any meaning." Statistician don't know whether this question is important for a study or not, but he knows this question can be analytic or cannot be analyzed. So therefore you have to be very clear about, and you are in a position to explain the thing to the statistician. Or if you know the various stats or various analysis method well and good, खुद से आता तो उससे better कोई चीज नहीं, because you are in a much better position. You are a person who also understand the test, also understand the analysis, as well as the depth of your study. So you are in a position to decide whether this particular question should be a relevant question or not, or what or how to collect the responses. For an example, if I want to collect information about my height, it can be asked like a height dash, let the people fill the information. Or I might ask like this way: height 5 to 5.5 feet, sorry, 5 feet, 5.6 feet to 6 feet, okay, 6 feet to 6.6, and up to 7 feet. I can give in a, or I can able to collect the responses in interval. Or I can also ask like this way: tall, average, short. So it is up to me. When I get exact number, scale number, at that time analysis of data become very simple. But at the same time, collecting a correct information under this method where analysis is easy, quite difficult. That is why most of the statisticians says you ask question in interval, so that you can able to analyze also, and for a researcher it is simple to collect the responses. And the last and most important thing about good questionnaire is you can able to test your questionnaire. You can able to pilot test. Pilot test means what? You can trial, you can able to trial your questionnaire. You can able to collect a data on a small scale and try to check whether your questionnaire giving the same kind of responses which you are expected, or what you have thought in your mind, and accordingly you have designed your questionnaire. If the questionnaire giving a same kind of responses which you thought about, that means your questionnaire is good questionnaire. Let's understand the 6 important steps to design a good questionnaire. Number 1, first of all, you have to identify your research aim and the goal. What is your research objectives? Why you want to do a research? What do you want to achieve in your research? Whether you want to know, or whether you want to know the information about your responses, or you want to check the already stabilized theory, or you want to develop a new model. what exactly you want to do. Accordingly, you have to design your questionnaire. Define your target responses. This is very important. And defining a target responses, basically, we always try to do this kind of a thing in research designs, particularly in sample design. First of all, you have to identify your universe, your population. And in the population, who are your target audience from whom you will going to collect the responses. For example, my population or my universe is those people who have attended the workshop, online workshop. And that is why the organizer is circulating or posting the feedback form, because they want a response from you. You all are their target audience. But suppose they are posting this feedback link in some other group, like group of a researcher of University of Mumbai, where 700, 800 people are there, and all are filling the information. Do you think whatever responses the organizer is getting is up to the mark? No, because you have not defined your target responses. So exactly on which class of a population you want to do a research, and accordingly you have to decide your target audience. Suppose I want to do a research on performance of students in Mumbai University with reference to South Mumbai colleges. So there are my universe is those students who are studying in the University of Mumbai. I have narrowed down the thing. Now I am targeting those students who are studying in South Mumbai college, but they are a student of Mumbai University. In South Mumbai,
झोप तुला झोपेची गरज आहे बाकी काही नाही तुला मी थोडस कशाला
in University of Mumbai, in South Mumbai, sorry, there are 4 universities which is operating in South Mumbai. Mumbai University, SNDT University, Dr. Homi Baba University, and Hyderabad Sindh National Cluster University. So there are 4 universities which are operating in South Mumbai. So I am targeting South Mumbai colleges, particularly those colleges which comes under University of Mumbai. So therefore, I am very clear about my target audience and I want to collect the responses from them. So accordingly, I have to design my questionnaire. What kind of a colleges are there in South Mumbai? Whether it is a co-aided college, whether it is a single faculty college, whether it is a multiple faculty college, okay, whether it is a self-finance college or government college. So what kind of a audience I need, and accordingly I have to design my questionnaire. Develop questions. This is again one of the important techniques. It is an art, and accordingly people do conduct a workshop on design a questionnaire, good questionnaire. In that they will tell you how to develop a question, how to ask a question to a responses, so that they should not feel offended. Sometimes when we ask, sometimes we have we want to do a research on one some critical topics, and where it will going to become very sensible questions, and those sensible questions should be designed in such a way that it should not hurt the sentiments of anyone. Otherwise, you want to do a research, but you land yourself in some legality. So we always should avoid ourselves, not even some sensible issue, but sometime in normal cases also, people may put some kind of a questions, or they develop a question in such a way that people may feel offended. Okay, so the same question may be designed in more appropriate way, in more suitable way. Okay, just I've given example of gender. Okay, just ask gender. Don't ask anything else. Okay. Sometimes you ask married, unmarried. Okay. Then in that also there are lots of varieties. People talks about single, double, married, unmarried, widow, divorcee, so many things. So sometime we should avoid giving so many options. You can ask 2-3 things and then write down others, specify if any. Now let them decide. Let them decide whether they want to disclose the information or not. Otherwise, some people, I know, I have collected data. I know some people don't feel comfortable by disclosing their marital status, whether they are married or not married. So most of the research, most of the questionnaire which you can able to see on the internet, this particular question are mostly avoided. Because this is their personal life, whether they want to share or not, whether they have a complication in their relationship or not. Choose your question type. We have already spoke about it, whether it is open-ended or a close-ended, whether the questionnaire should be ordinal questions, nominal questions, or scale questions, whether you want to ask the questions in a Likert scale, or which kind of a Likert scale, formative or reflective one. So that you have to choose as per your requirement, so that it can give you the maximum information. Design questions sequence and overall layout. I think we have talked about when we have to discuss the order of the questions. So sequence are very important. When you are going for interview, okay, I don't know how many of you have seen, there are so many interviews which take place, on televisions. I still remember there was one program of Prabhu Chawla at Aastak. The name of the program was Sidi Baat. Then there are some other, Rubru is one of the program which is interview based program. Then I think there was one more program which was very popular, Third Degree. So there the sequence is not decided. Do you know why? Because they see the temperament of the respondent. Suppose if they're asking some burning questions and the respondent got annoyed, immediately they ask some other very simple question or very light question, so that they can able to maintain the momentum of that particular situation. Otherwise it will going to become very difficult if you ask this question. So those kind of a questionnaire do not have any sequence. They only have a questions, but sequence are not provided. But when you are giving your question to someone else, you are not going for interview. You are collecting information by giving them a instrument. So at that time, your order should be the same. And try to check always your questionnaire before giving to them. Let's check the grammatical mistake if you have. See the numbering are proper or not. I mean to say overall layout. Let's see how it looks. Whether it is a 1 page or 2 page. Can you able to concise your same questions, same number of questions? Can you able to concise in 2 pages, front back? Well and good. When you give 4 or 5 page questionnaire to someone, respondent get annoyed and this is yaar itna bada questionnaire kaun bharega. So at that time you have to be little more conscious that your questionnaire should not be lengthy. So you have to check the layout of your overall layout of your questionnaire, where the spaces can be minimized, where you can accommodate more question at the less space. But don't make it very jumbling kind of a thing that makes a confusion among the respondent. Make it simple, little spacey, but not that spacey that it is go to 4 or 5 pages. It is always said that your questionnaire should be of 1 page front and back, so that in a single page you can able to do. I think those who are traveling a lot, or those who are regularly going to good restaurant, or through tour operator, or anybody who buys a car or something, this multinational company or A-class company, they always try to take a feedback from their customer. In fact, when you do a online banking, at that time your bank also give you a kind of a feedback form. Are you happy with this thing or not? So every time you have to click, okay, good, nice, bad. That means they keep on evaluating the things. Run a pilot. So pilot test we have already seen. So what we have seen here, what are the important thing in a good questionnaire? Out of that, we have concise 6 points. These are the 6 important steps. If you able to follow this 6 steps, you can say your questionnaire is excellent or up to the mark. Let's see what are the important points to remember while making a questionnaire. Number 1, identify variables. How many of you know about variables? I think in the introductory lectures, Nishikant sir might have spoke about variables, isn't it? Yes. So can you tell me what is variables, or how many types of variables are there? Okay. Basically, in research, we talks about dependent and independent variable, but there are 28 types of variables, but we don't know about it. We have heard about dependent variable, independent variable, moderate variable, mediating variable, controlled variable. Apart from that, there are so many other variables. We have dummy variables, we have extravagant variable, we have qualitative variable, we have quantitative variable, so many variables we have, but we are not aware of it, because basically in research we talks about some type of variables. Let me tell you some variables. I'm talking about, see, the types of variables. Let's see, independent variables. We have a dependent variables. Independent variables are those variables which do not change as per the change in the circumstances. It will remain as it is. Like your height. Okay, whether it is a COVID or it is a non-COVID period, whether it is a BJP government or whether it is a Congress government, whether it is summer or winter, your height will remain same. So this is a independent variable. Dependent variable, like your mood, like your weight, like your health, this might change, okay, depending on the circumstances. Mediating variable are those variables which mediate between two variables, dependent and independent variables. Okay, I know you all because of Bharat College. So here Bharat College is mediating variable. Bharat College is mediating between you and me. Okay, then a moderating variable. What is a moderating variable here? The moderating variable is a quality of internet. The moderating variable is Zoom platform. Zoom platform is a moderating. If my Zoom platform is working properly, my internet is properly, what we are kind of a relation we are developing, or kind of a understanding we are developing, that can be possible. If there is continuous disturbance in between, then there might not be a good association between you and me, and that is why we have a moderating variables. Controlled variables are those variables which always we have to control. Okay, like circumstances, like involvement of other variables. Then we have a extravagant variables. What is it? Extravagant variable. Extravagant variables are those variables which do not impact dependent or independent variable directly, but indirectly it will have a strong impact. For example, if I want to see the performance of the student in German class, I said some students are doing excellent job. They have learned everything, all the German language fast within 2 months. There might be some family background. Might be their parent knowing German language. Might be he visited to Germany, or might be he have a font of some German movies. There might be something. Some people who are slow learning, they have a less interest because nobody from their family knows about German language or Spanish language or French language. So this extra variables or extra variables always try to control the dependent independent variable. Qualitative, you know the variables. Then confounding variables. Confounding variables are those variables which are important in creating a particular variable. It creates the association, it make the thing solid when the presence of third person comes. Then we have a composite variable. Composite variables means when you group some variables, then the output is something different. For example, if I'm talking about satisfaction level might have 5 factors. These 5 factors, when you club together, then it becomes a satisfaction. Otherwise, I'm saying I'm satisfied with certificate, but I'm not satisfied with the speaker. I'm not satisfied with the Zoom platform, but I'm satisfied with the internet. You cannot say like this way. When you are saying satisfied, that means taking all the thing into a bunch. So this is about variables. Now coming to another thing, defining a scale. So first of all, you have to identify your variables. Which variables are there, and accordingly you have to set a question for variables. For an example, when you're asking question related to dependent variables, it should give you some variations. When you talk about independent variables, so independent variables always have their type of variations. Next is defined scale. The scale will tell you which kind of a question you have to ask. Let an example about scale. When we talk about scale, we have a nominal scale. Here we can see nominal scale, ordinal scale, and nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio scale. Ratio scale. Now suppose if I want to ask a question about a height, age, weight of a person. Let's talk about weight. Okay. If I want to ask about, or I want to collect my data on a nominal scale, my option should be slim or fat. Okay, 2 options I give. So we cannot say slim people are good or fat people are good. Both have their own qualities. If I want to ask ordinal, under ordinal, I have some order, some logical order, like thin, I can say average, or I can say fat. So I have given 3 options. Now here I can able to set in some logical order. Thin is something less than average, average something less than fat. So accordingly here I can able to judge the weight. Fatty always have a more weight compared to average one, and average one is always have a more weight compared to thin. Similarly, if I want to ask interval, okay, in interval I will give some intervals. Okay, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40. Now the same scale can be called as ordinal and same scale can be called as interval. Only difference is that you should know whether your 0 is arbitrary 0 or your 0 have some logic. Okay, whether there is a equal distance or whether there is no equal distance. And accordingly, you can decide whether it is a interval data or a scale data. Okay. Now, when you talk about scale data, I can directly write weight and put it space. You write down your own weight. Okay, I have not given you any options. So the same question I can ask in a 4 different way, depending on my understanding about my research, my understanding about what kind of a data I need for my study. I hope you have understood. Let's talk about nominal data. Are those data where there is no order. If there is some order, then it is a ordinal data. And in ordinal data, if we have a equal space, I am saying no, there is no equal space, then it is a ordinal. If there is a equal space, then it is a interval data. Okay. But in interval data, again, we have to ask 2 questions. Number 1, 0 have some meaning or 0 don't have any meaning. I'm saying 0 means 0. If I say yes, 0 have some meaning, okay, then we have scale data. If I'm saying 0 don't have any meaning, then it is an interval data. So similarly, these are some of the important things which we have to keep in our mind. Then the relation amongst the questions. What relation you have? I'm just giving a small example. You know, in my MPhil, I have done a research and I have collected a data. So I have a doubt on my respondent, whether they are responding correct or not. So my statistician told me, you set a data that are related to each other. For an example, I have asked a question like, which newspaper do you read? Number 1 question. Which language do you prefer? And third question, which column do you read? Okay, I have given the options. I given 4 options, 5 options. For an example, Times of India, Hindustan Times, Sakal, Navbharat Times, some Marathi paper, some Hindi paper, some English paper. And below I have given the language. For an example, or language can be asked first, depending on how you are going to relate your question. Suppose anybody have ticked Marathi language, I prefer to read questions or prefer to read newspaper. And below you are taking Times of India. And in Times of India, below there is a question related to which article do you read, and he taking a capital market. So all these 3 questions are contradictory to each other. There was one paper, DNA. In DNA paper, there was a strong column which is known as capital market, which talks about the capital market. But if same article, if you want to study in Times of India, we have a economics times. Okay. So if there is a mismatch in the responses, that means this particular questionnaire is a bogus questionnaire, or here responded as bluffed us. So we have a 2 options. Can we able to rectify? If not, discard those kind of responses. So always try to set a relationship amongst the questions such a way that one question should counter the another question. And when you do this kind of activity, the chances of getting a false responses are very less. Otherwise, people can easily make you fool, or people can easily bluff with you, or people, and you are collecting a wrong information. Yes, I think someone want to ask any question. No. Okay. And at the end, testing of hypothesis. These are the important point, because ultimately, whatever responses you are collecting from your questionnaire, ultimately, what is the purpose of it? Why you are collecting information? The purpose is to test your hypothesis. So your questionnaire should allow the researcher to test the hypothesis. If your data is not allowing your hypothesis to be tested, then those kind of questionnaire are not useful questionnaire. So you have to make a modification or a rectification in your questionnaires. Okay. Next is, let have an example. Let have some, demo of some papers, research papers in front of you. I'm showing some papers, questionnaire. This is a questionnaire which is of a one page but very powerful questionnaire. This questionnaire was, made by one statistician, Dr. MZ Faruqi, and MZ Faruqi is specialized, in collecting a poll, okay, exit poll or a opinion poll. Now let's see. In a one-page questionnaire, the maximum information is collected about the newspaper reader. Name of the consumer. This is something unofficial. This is something optional. If anybody want to answer, okay. Age, okay. Now from age, we can able to understand which class or which age category people loves which kind of people. Okay, their qualification. So qualification can also related to the newspaper. Which class of paper read a which newspaper. Occupation. So whether a businessman read Times of India or no, or whether businessmen do have a time to read a paper or no. Achha, what is the first preference of salaried people? Which paper? Whether it is Navbharat Times or Sakal or Maharashtra Times or Times of India, what paper? Income. Income will also specify the affordability of a reader. Times of India is a costly paper. I don't know how much it costs, because I'm getting Times of India at my home regularly, because we have opt for a plan, and my plan is I think 15-16 year back plan. So we don't know how much the rate in the market, but according to me it is 7 or 8 rupees, I think so. Okay, compared to other paper. Let's see, research oriented question in which I have written what is the frequency of a paper, how you oftenly read a paper, daily, weekly, monthly, okay, or what is your reading style, which column which you like most, political news you want to read, interested to read, or economic or finance or sports, entertainment or other. Okay, reason why you want to buy this particular paper, because of price or because of coverage or because of language. Okay, from where do you buy paper? Okay,
रोज 7:30 मिनिटात आता आज 7 वेळ दिली बघू मुहूर्त बदललाय तर
मी माझं काही भरोसा व्यवस्थित
okay, so this is one of the dummy questionnaire, and I have collected a response from this paper, this questionnaire, and I presented in my MPhil dissertation, and the same thing I presented in the paper. And do you know that after 6 or 7 months later, the same report was published in Times of India, and that report supported my study, which shows that whatever information which I collected, it was near to the reality. Let's see another questionnaire. This is a questionnaire related to satisfaction, to know the satisfaction level of the commuters. This is what I'm talking about, dividing your question into 2 sections. First is general information, where we are asking about age, gender. Age is asking in an ordinal way. We can able to arrange the order, some logical order. Gender is asked in a nominal way. Similarly, qualification is asked in an ordinal way. Profession is asked in a nominal way. But what kind of a nominal it is? This is single tick polynomous nominal, multi-nominal, single tick data. Income, this is again an ordinal. This is again an ordinal. Now, how often do you travel with bus? Okay, I give an option. So this can be a ordinal. Why ordinal? Because I can easily able to arrange in some logical order. What are the main reason for you to travel by bus? Now this is again a nominal. So question number 7 is ordinal. Question number 8 is nominal. Question number 6 is again ordinal. This is nominal, yes or no. And after that I say if yes, tick as many as possible. This is a first question, 9A, yes or no. This is a dichotomy, nominal question. And after that, I have multiple choice. This is also nominal, but polynomous. Polynomous was multi-nominal question where I have a multiple tick. Now after that, I'm asking a research-oriented question. Now for asking a research-oriented question, this is something which will going to evaluate the satisfaction level of a bus commuters. Now let's see here. I have divided my Likert scale, okay, in a 5-point. And accordingly, I have also divided my satisfaction level into 5 important factors. Satisfaction related to bus related, satisfaction related to service quality, satisfaction related to bus stop, satisfaction related to staff, satisfaction related to security, and other research oriented question. From this all question, I can able to evaluate the overall satisfaction level. Let's see the question. This is a reflective scale. When I am talking about bus related satisfaction level, I am asking about condition of a bus, maintenance of a bus, sitting arrangement in a bus. Okay, seats are reserved for women handicaps. KDMT bus are overcrowded, and boarding and alight is easy. Means I am talking about the conditions of the bus as a structure, as a physical structure, whether you are satisfied with the bus or not. Then, so when all 6 questions are related to a bus condition, this is known as reflective scale. So I can able to make a totaling of this. So what should be my maximum score? My maximum score is 30 and my minimum score is 5. So my scale is between 5 to 30. Suppose if people are taking only 1, 1, 1, so maximum score I can make total is 5. Suppose if all are taking 5, 5, 5, so my maximum category is 30. 5 multiplied by 6 comes to 30. So my scale is between 5 to 30. Therefore, my data is also a scale data and my data is also normally distributed. Please provide your variables. Achha, this is something different. Then bus stop related questions. So this is something related to bus stop, whether proper arrangement is there in the bus stop or not, waiting time is less at the bus stop, sitting arrangement there at the bus stop or not, cleaning is there at the bus stop or not, display of timetable at the bus stop. So this is all related to bus stop. Similarly, at the end, let's see. This is an open-ended question. Any suggestion to improve KDMT buses? So here I am asking their suggestion. And this all suggestion will become a very important part in my last chapter, that is suggestion and conclusion. So I have to conclude and then I have to suggest what are the point on which KDMT official have to work. So I can suggest with the help of this question. So this is some of the examples of questionnaire. There are so many questionnaires which are available on the internet. There are 2 types of questionnaires: standardized questionnaire and judgmental questionnaire. Standardized questionnaire are those questionnaire which are checked, and you can take those questionnaire as it is with a little modification. Suppose my questionnaire, by using this questionnaire, there are 7-8 people who have done their research by using same questionnaire. Only thing is that instead of KDMT, they might have used BST, they might have used NMT, they might have used NMT, they might use a Mira Bhayandar road transportation or anything else. But moreover, the questionnaire can be allowed to use as it is. Only thing is that you have to provide them due credit. Yes, any question from your side, you can ask me. Yes. So 7 minutes to go, and I hope you have some questions.
Participants, if you have any questions, please you can ask.
Asking questions are very important.
You can
Good
unmute.
evening, sir.
Yes, yes.
I would like to ask you something. Like this is the first time like I'm going to do research. So I just wanted to I just wanted to ask you. You just spoke about the hypothesis that the question should be strong and the testing should be done. So that part I did not understand.
Remember one thing, for example, if I want to know, if I want to study that the average height of a classroom is equal to not equal to 45. So here I want to test whether the average height of a classroom is equal to 45 or not. So in my questionnaire, one question related to height should not be there, or should there or not?
Yeah, should there.
Yes. So your questionnaire should also take hypothesis into consideration, so that a hypothesis can be tested. You should have a sufficient data to test your hypothesis. Otherwise,
Okay.
if you do not ask question related to height, or if you ask a question of related to height, not in numbers, like, I'm asking height, okay, short, average, tall, short, average, tall. So can I able to justify whether the average height of the classroom equal to not equal to 45? Because here I need a age 45 or height 45. So whether I can able to collect the information in numbers or not. If my question cannot able to collect the information in number, that particular hypothesis cannot be tested.
Okay, sir.
Yes, Rushali ma'am, I think you want to ask something.
Any other question, audience, please? Participants?
Yeah, so so some people say that in a question you should not you have a 5 or 7 ki bajaye you should keep 4 choices. Otherwise, people tend to mark neutral. Feel the same that you should keep an even number.
Okay, let me tell you one thing. What is the importance of Likert scale? The importance of a Likert scale is to concise, to confine your data in more quantitative way. For an example, if you're asking in a 4 point, you are asking about strongly agree, agree, disagree, strongly disagree. Suppose I'm neither agree or neither disagree, then what?
Yeah.
So there are some people who may not have any liking or disliking. For example, if someone asks me how this government is working, I can say okay. If someone tell me give her your opinion, I can say ठीक ठीक काम कर रही है.
Average.
So average is, you can write neutral also, you can write average, but when you talk about opinion, you have to be neutral ना. लोग neutral हो सकते हैं ना.
So there is no reason 4 भी रख सकते हैं 5 भी रख सकते हैं depending on.
मैडम 5 रखेंगे तो आप you can able to more justify, because in world all people are not strong headed. अगर इतना सिंपल होता तो कभी भी इलेक्शन होता तो हंग असेंबली नहीं आएगी. You have to very clear either a Congress or either a BJP. Why people are giving to some neutral banda also, some people are giving आजकल तो नोटा का भी सिस्टम आ गया. People are also casting their vote as nota. We don't like anyone.
Yes, sir.
So neutral is also a opinion.
Yes, sir. Agreed.
Okay. Any other questions?
There was a Nobel Prize winner. When the media person asked him, who motivated you to win this Nobel Prize, he said, my mom. So the media person asked, how your mom motivated you to win this Nobel Prize. He said, my mom used to ask me when I come back from school, how many questions do you ask today? She was not interested whether I've responded any question or not, but she was more interested whether I have asked a question or not. So at that time, I'm getting very annoyed why she's asking about, whether I've asked a question or not. But later on, I've understood you can ask a question only once you have understood the concept. Without understanding a concept, you cannot able to ask a question.
Very true.
Sir, there can be other possibility. If you have understood it properly, then also there will be no questions.
Ma'am, I'm just giving a small example. The more I know about research, more difficulty I'm facing.
Yes, yes,
And
that's
that
true.
is why, in all my workshop, I always say I'm a student of research.
Yes.
No one, because the new concept is adding to the market. So
Yes, yes,
nothing is complete. We always say, research is a continuous process.
yes, yes, sir. Ongoing. Yes.
Sir, research is a ocean. You can never completely learn anything, and whenever you attend, you come to know something new. So I
Yes, sir.
think
Yes,
it
from whom we have learned so many things. When we ask them, they are also confused. Arey, I want to learn this thing, that thing. I know so many people who are about to us, and they are still aspiring for more knowledge. I don't know where it will going to end. One day we will go from this world, but this thing will keep on going. Otherwise, the research will over. The word research says searching the same thing again and again with different dimension.
that is what we are also doing the same thing. I think, sir, we are also in the same role. Every time a research workshop or a research uh, FDP give us something new, and every time there is some new learning, some new understanding. So it has
Absolutely,
to
ma'am.
be. It has to be. It has to be. So Savita madam, let us now conclude. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Kuldeep sir, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much.
Abhi, the rest will be done. The formalities will be done by the host of the
Shweta,
day. But
ma'am.
thank you so much.
So shall I leave,
Thank you,
ma'am?
ma'am.
With a
No,
permission?
no, sir. Just a minute. Let
Sir,
us
formal
thank you,
vote of
sir.
thanks will be. Yes, Shweta, madam, over to you.
Yes, madam. Thank you, sir. Respected and our most distinguished resource person, Dr. Kuldeep Sharma, sir. I consider it a great privilege to propose a vote of thanks to all dignitaries who have witnessed it as a memorable and successful session. I take this opportunity to express my sincere thanks to our management, and I express a deep gratitude to our respected in charge principal, Madam Dr. Neetu Kapoor, for guiding us in all our activities, ensure that we always do the right things in the right way. I would like to thank beloved IQSC coordinator Dr. Savita Punjabi ma'am for her moral support and guidance. Special thanks to Vrushali madam, and finally the wonderful participants who have turned up in such a great numbers. Thank you so much. Thank you, madam.
Shweta madam, thank you so much.
And fill the feedback form kindly.
So thank you all of you.
Participants are requested to please give your feedbacks, and feedback should always help the organizers to improve themselves for the next session. Thank you, sir. Kuldeep
In
sir,
fact,
thank you so much.
in fact, feedback also helps speaker to rectify themselves and modify themselves.
Sure, sir. We'll share the
Yes,
feedback with you also, definitely, sir. So that you also come to know that what extra needs to be added, or I don't think, but still, if you want, we'll share the feedback, sir, with you. Already
Yes,
your sessions are good, very good. But always there should be a scope
yes,
for
there is
improvement.
always scope for improvement, ma'am.
Yes, sir, definitely, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kuldeep, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for guiding throughout this 10 days, sir. It is not thanks for this session. It is for thanks for the 10 days organization. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Shweta, Rushali, ma'am, you can end off with the session.
Yes, madam.
Okay, ma'am.